What's up, family? This is the Locker Room Beef podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please go follow us on our social media. It's Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcast. Whatever you got, just go hook us up. Also, go check out our website too, lockerroombeef.com. It's where we have really everything that we offer, as well as a Locker Room Beef column where we write our articles. Recently wrote one about the next best player after LeBron James. Today we have a wonderful guest, part of the Locker Room Beef family, Matt Trapp. Matt and I talk about Jimbo leaving FSU, the college football playoff predictions, some World Cup group reactions, NBA news, the 15 best players in the NBA, and then a bunch of more stuff. So please tune in until the end to get all of the 15 best players. Is probably our best segment, as well as some of our best reactions. If you enjoy the episode, feel so inclined to be a wonderful human being and give us a 5-star review, 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. That would be really, really awesome. Otherwise, it's all good. Appreciate everyone listening. Thanks for tuning in. Let's do it. What's up, family? This is the Locker Room Beef podcast. I'm joined by my wonderful and beautifully curvaceous guest, Matt Trapp. Matt, how are you?
I'm good. I've been known to be a little thick. I just want to say congrats on your FSU Seminoles on being bowl eligible once again.
Yeah, we have a good run of bowl eligibility. Thank God we played Louisiana Monroe, because otherwise I don't think it would have really worked out. But let's actually talk about that a little bit. I had two raging moments this past week, just to let you and the listeners know. One of them came when I found out the news that Jimbo Fisher is actually leaving FSU and accepted the Texas A&M job. And at first I heard murmurs about this. The sources were out there and people were talking about it, but I always thought that Jimbo was going to be around, and I thought that FSU was going to make sure that he would be around. And I told people in my camp, I told my roommates, I said, guys,
You have a camp?
I have a camp. I have an entourage. I have a squad. I have a family. That's who I talk to every time I open up the pod. What's up, family?
I'm glad.
So I'm talking to this family, and I'm telling them Florida State needs to fucking pay FSU, and it doesn't matter how much it is. It should be Nick Saban money, because no matter how much you pay him, they're going to profit way more off their collegiate football program because they have a top 5 coach in the NCAA. So I don't get why the heck Florida State didn't negotiate with him or didn't even allow to negotiate. And I don't blame Jimbo at all. I'm not mad at Jimbo. So maybe some people are, and he's getting a lot of Twitter hate, which, I mean, everybody gets Twitter hate.
Oh, yeah.
But I cannot believe that Florida State just let that man go, because now they're going to get a USF alum probably, or someone, or they might switch with Texas A&M. But no matter who they get, unless it's Saban, unless it's really, I think he's the only person that is undeniably a better coach than Jimbo. Besides that, I would probably put Jimbo above anyone else as far as coach and as far as recruiting and as far as just being able to build a program. And FSU is a top 10 program in my opinion to coach. So it's super frustrating, and I can't freaking believe it. And it freaking sucks to be an FSU fan, because now I know that our relevancy is going to go down and down. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts is I have a camp as well. A camp that includes a person that's going to FSU right now. And I was texting him during the week about the rumors, and he said that Jimbo was going through a dirty divorce. He wanted more of like a clean start in Texas A&M. I heard they have great facilities. And if anyone has watched Friday Night Lights movie or the show, Texas football is like on another level. So he'll be able to recruit down there, and I don't know why. You should be pretty optimistic. You're used to Taggart, and you might get Taggart back. I know he's shooting down those rumors. You'll be lucky to get the. I would even settle for the grass eater, Les Miles. So I think he'll bounce back.
I don't personally. I think it's a huge loss. I'm pissed. And I just can't believe it. But I mean, obviously he was given crazy money, $75 million over 10 years. I mean, geez, the guy's got job security for days now. So like I said, I don't blame him at all. But geez, I'm just like so sad for FSU. But in bigger college football news, obviously the playoffs were announced as far as who's going to be in. All the bowls were announced, and I think the most surprising thing, obviously, is that Alabama is the number 4 team, the final team to get in, and Ohio State was not. Ohio State kind of obviously had a way better schedule as far as who they had to play and stuff. Alabama got smacked by Auburn.
Smacked?
Well, the scoreboard didn't necessarily tell the story. Auburn took care of business the whole game, in my opinion. And the fact that that's the case just shows me that Alabama, I mean, that's really the only true quality. I mean, they played, I think, 2 other ranked opponents the entire season. And none of them at the quality of what Auburn was. And Auburn clearly, took care of business, I guess I'll just say. But, on the other hand, obviously, Alabama's always a team that you got to look out for. I put out a poll on the Locker Room Beef Twitter page and basically asked who's going to win to get the idea of who our extended camp thinks is going to win. And the favorite right now is actually Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield. But I would say pretty even overall. I think Oklahoma got about 40+% of the votes, and then everyone else was kind of scattered, with the least amount being Alabama, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so I think obviously going to be an interesting playoff. I'm pretty excited to watch. I think Baker Mayfield's pretty fun to watch. I think this Georgia team, this is the first year in a couple of years that I could actually see every team win somehow. I could see that narrative. What do you think? What's your predictions? What are your thoughts on the Final Four?
My thoughts are I interacted on your little poll, and I voted Alabama. And one of our Locker Room Beef fans said, I think he said Clemson's going to wipe the floor with Alabama or something. And I responded to him. I was like, are you sure? Deshaun Watson's not there anymore. And I don't necessarily like Nick Saban because I started becoming a Dolphins fan when he was the coach, and I didn't have a great memory of him there. And I mean, the doctors he was going to get Drew Brees, and they kind of vetoed that. So I could see where he's coming from, but Nick Saban's the Bill Belichick of college football, and I'll never count him out. So I think they'll win it.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. I wouldn't be surprised by Georgia, which I think is the biggest dark horse. I could see Oklahoma winning because I think Baker Mayfield's the best player in college football. And I think Clemson, obviously number 1 ranked team, but I mean, the Philly guy is going to hate me for saying this, being a guy that goes to Clemson and a guy that actually was at the championship game, excuse me. But I saw them live, and I'm not that impressed with them. I don't think their quarterback is very good. He's a pretty awful passer, and I think that he's going to have to be able to open up the passing game in order not only to be Alabama, but if they were able to advance to win in the final. And I would be surprised to see them win both, but I could see them winning both. I mean, they're the number 1 seed, and they have been the best overall team this season. So it's gonna be really up there. Shout out to all the UCF fans. I think they should be in, because that is absolute BS.
Shout out.
I know UCF went undefeated, and they had 2 great games to end the season, beating my USF Bulls and the Memphis Tigers. But that no AAC team should be able to compete like that. I do think it'd be interesting. I've heard a lot of people also in my camp, like I say, I'm referencing my camp a lot this pod, talk about the idea of they think within the next year or two that it's going to bounce up to 8 teams in the playoff. What do you think about that possibility? Do you think it's good or bad? My personal thought is I like the idea, but my hesitation is at what point do you stop? Because if you bring in 8 and then you're going to be like, well, what if we did 16 and what if we did 24? You know, like I think at some point you have to sort of draw the line. So I think 8 I could see because you could include every conference that way if that's what you're trying to achieve. And realistically, no 9, 10, 11 seeded team is probably going to beat top tier teams multiple times. So I would be okay with 8, but that would definitely be my hard cap. What say you?
I say 6. Take a page. The NCAA needs to take a page out of the EFL championship. 6, top 2 gets a bye, and 3, 6, and 4, 5 duel it out to play 1 and 2. That's what I like. We don't need 8 teams. And I liked Auburn. I wish they could have. I didn't really see the game, but it's just I like them. With the Iron Bowl was nice, and Kerryon Johnson. The amount of times I've heard him compared to Le'Veon Bell, I'd be a rich man if I had $1 for every time he's been compared to Le'Veon Bell. So I like them. I wish they got in.
Yeah, but I was cheering for Auburn to get into. Obviously, didn't happen, but I was sort of also cheering for Miami to get in. So not much representation out of that game. But yeah, in the end, UCF is going to get smashed by Auburn. That's my guess. Yeah,
without
a lot of interesting bowl games. I mean, Ohio State, I think, is probably going to win their bowl game. But I mean, besides that, I am really interested to watch this year's playoff just because I do think there's a level of balance and I could see every narrative. If I had to pick my favorite, I think part of me wants to say Georgia just because I feel like a lot of people are counting them out and they're extremely explosive. So definitely part of me wants to say Georgia. I think that's what I'm going to take. My hesitation is actually Baker Mayfield. I think that guy is just a boss and a badass. I mean, he's done some pretty controversial stuff. But that guy is, if you just look at his stats, he's one of the best collegiate quarterbacks, let alone football players of all time.
Johnny Manziel Jr.
Yeah, I mean, he is. He plays very similarly. And he's just a stat stuffer. Not saying that necessarily always translates to wins, but his attitude does. And I would not be surprised if he's hoisting up that trophy in January. But we'll see. My
favorite matchup I want to see is the trilogy, Alabama, Clemson, and you keep hyping up Oklahoma. I'm not sold on them. I've seen them in the playoff before, and they got smacked. So I don't think they're going to do well, personally.
Well, I guess we'll have you on the pod and see how that goes. All right, let's switch it up a little bit. The other moment, I referenced that when the Jimbo Fisher news came out that I got pretty pissed. I had a little rant within my apartment for those who were listening. And my other rant came during the World Cup group selections. This is actually the first time I watched the selections happen. Yeah, for World Cup. And it was kind of weird. I mean, there's a lot of like kind of foreplay to it. I mean, they're just talking about they just show a bunch of like random Russian people dancing and doing very cultural stuff. I mean, it's cool, but after about 5 minutes, it's like, all right, let's go ahead and do what we're watching. And so about an hour in, you finally get to the actual selection. It's very awkward. They have like multiple people doing jobs that one person could easily do. And
it's a show.
They try to make it as dramatized as possible. So I'm watching clearly just because I'm really interested to see not only how the seedings go and just where people are placed and which groups are made, and I wonder, who's going to be in the group of death. But I'm mostly watching for Portugal for selfish reasons, and so after the host country and always the first person of Group A. Russia selected Portugal as the very next one, and I was like, okay, whatever. Now I was telling my roommate who is starting to get into soccer a little bit. I was telling him, look, the only thing that I worry about is out of pot 2, I just don't want Spain. Literally, I could take anyone else, and I think Portugal is fine. But the biggest thing I don't want is Spain in my group, because I just think it adds a lot of pressure for Portugal, because now they have to be, that second best, because I think Spain is going to be the first best. And of course, the team that's drawn out of the hat or out of the little ball in order to be in the same Group E as Portugal, is Spain. And I was very mad, to say the least. I had to walk out of the room, just take a step outside.
Give me a break.
Oh, I'm not joking with you. Ended up being an okay group. I mean, the other 2 teams in the squad are not that difficult. We should be able to advance with Morocco and Iran. I was just very mad, just because I personally think my picks to win the World Cup are France and Spain, and so I definitely think Portugal will hopefully be the second group out of that or team out of that group. But what were your reactions to the seedings, and do you see anything interesting? Do you think there's a clear-cut group of death, or do you think there's just a lot of balance?
There's a lot of balance, yeah. No group of death. With your Portugal fanship, you always whine to me, oh, Ronaldo, he gets so much criticism. If he does not get out of that group, he's going to get absolutely slaughtered in the media. So I know, okay, Spain. You better get out of that group, all right? And yeah, there's no group of death, in my opinion. I'm so happy as a football fan. I was just following it in the Bleacher Report app. I was like, that's 7-Eleven or something, and I just kept refreshing when they, because they were going pretty quick with the drawings. I just kept refresh, and I was like, ooh, Belgium, England. That's I can't wait for that game.
Yeah, the World Cup first game starts with Russia, Saudi Arabia, which 4 people will be watching that. But the World Cup really starts when Portugal, Spain play each other in the second game.
My goal, which my friend said he did last World Cup, is to watch every fixture.
I think that's my goal too. I'm at least going to try to watch parts of every fixture, but of all the major matches, I'm trying to watch all 90 minutes. So
my DVR is going to be taxed because I gotta get it to 20% before the World Cup.
Yeah, it's gonna be an amazing World Cup. I'm super excited. I honestly think there are 8 or 9 teams that really have a chance to win. Of those, really? Yeah, I think Portugal. I don't think Portugal are the favorites by any means, but I think they have a shot. I mean, they just won the Euros. Give me a break. The Portugal, Spain, France, Argentina, Belgium, Germany, England, Brazil. I think all those teams could win. I think what's going to end up happening is it's going to be just like in the Euros. It's going to be based upon where teams end up in the group and where they're slotted within the tournament play.
Portugal's just a little bit of a better Uruguay.
I also think Uruguay has a decent shot.
Yeah, they'll get out that group.
Yeah, they'll definitely get out the group. I think they have arguably the easiest group to get out of with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. I think actually the big nation that's going to have the toughest time getting out of the group is Argentina, which I'm not necessarily mad about considering I'm a Ronaldo fan. But I do really enjoy watching Argentina play, and I think getting Iceland, Croatia, and Nigeria in their group, those are 3 teams with quality. And I don't think every team in the World Cup necessarily has quality, but each team in that group does. And when it comes to playing teams that are just like difficult to play, like a Croatia, I think all three of those teams are difficult to play for different reasons. Iceland because they just have a lot of freaking nationalism and pride. Croatia because they have scary good talent in many positions, and Nigeria just because they're just one of those African nations that can outpace you and actually have quality while they do it. And those are three teams that, like, if Argentina and Portugal were switched, I'd be freaking scared, because you drop one match, in the beginning, and then it looks really difficult to advance. So I would be very afraid if I was Argentina. I think the team that has the biggest layup to go through is probably Uruguay. I think if I had to select a group of death, besides Group D, I think there's a lot of quality in Group D. With the Argentina group, but I think Group F has actually got three quality squads that I'm really interested to see. I think Germany will get through. I think obviously they're the favorite. Although I would not be surprised if they drop points, but I think Mexico and Sweden are also two very qualitative squads. I wonder if Zlatan comes back in order to participate in the World Cup, because I know he retired assuming that Sweden wouldn't get in, but they did. I would love to see him come back, but regardless, Sweden has a lot of talent, and Korea, Republic in the group as well. But I definitely see Mexico or Sweden giving Germany issues and giving each other issues. So that would probably be the closest thing to group of death. But I agree with you overall. A lot of balance amongst the groups, which is not normal typically every year. You definitely have a group of death, but I'm going to be really interested to see how the World Cup goes as far as how the group slottings change things.
Yeah, you went on this long soliloquy. Didn't really let me give my thoughts. I was going to say Group F was the strongest group. I was saying Group F is the strongest group, and I think the managers with a lot of sleepless nights, three most pressure-packed situations, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. Those South American squads, they go in every 4 years. And if Mexico doesn't get out of that group, they're going to be asking serious questions of him. So, that's the strongest group. Belgium, England better get out of that group. If England doesn't get out of that group, those fans, I feel bad for those fans because they didn't get out of their group last World Cup.
Well, I think the interesting thing is the two major nations that have disappointed the most in international play are Belgium and England over the past decade. And those are the two teams that happen to be grouped together as far as the two top dogs within Group G. So it definitely tailors it to... It looks like they should be just fine. I think they can beat Panama and Tunisia without many issues. But it's just funny how they were grouped together because typically you have a top dog, a team that's pretty good, and then two all-right teams that, you'll see if they make any splash. But... I don't know. I definitely think Belgium is super talented. I think they have, I would argue, maybe the second most talented squad. For me personally, I think France is the most talented squad, A to Z. And then second, I would probably put Belgium up there. I just think the likes of Hazard, of Lukaku, of De Bruyne, I would just be surprised if they're an early bounce out, but at the same time, I mean, they've been that way the past couple of tournaments, as well as England, another super talented squad, but just, I think a lot of that comes down to coaching, which is interesting because obviously there's such a huge job in positions in countries like that, so the fact that they can't find success, especially England, is just kind of crazy. But is there any, team that we haven't mentioned that you could really see making a big run, or at least beating a big player?
What do you mean beating a big player?
Like maybe in group play, beating one of those top teams, or maybe advancing much further than they're supposed to, maybe a bit of a Cinderella?
Well, I was very happy with this draw because the two countries, because I'm a Liverpool fan, that I want to see do well is Egypt and Senegal, and they got probably the two weakest groups. So Russia's home nation, that might be a little bit of an issue for Egypt, but I think Salah and Mane are going to put themselves on the international stage a little bit more. Salah's probably top 5 form in world football right now. And we'll see what they do in Champions League. But if Egypt goes on some, like, Final 4, Final 8 run, I think Salah's going to be putting himself, he's going to get plenty of Ballon d'Or votes, in my opinion.
Oh, my gosh.
Because they're going to see him. And it depends on how they finish, but he's going to be internationally regarded. And your Belgium second talent is a bit of a stretch. I'd probably say more top 5, Brazil, Spain, France, top 3. But something's got to give with that Belgium-England high expectations. I think Belgium's high expectations are a bit unfair over the years because England has won a World Cup before and Belgium never has, but definitely the new generation of players influx with Belgium.
Yeah, I agree. I really hope that Brazil makes it pretty far. I mean, they did before they got absolutely housed by Germany, 7-1. But Brazil, I mean, another team that obviously very used to dominance. I mean, it's basically the birthplace of world football as far as class, and it's been a while since they won a major trophy. And look, they have one of the best players in the world, Neymar. They have one of the best squads. They have probably the best defensive line. You know, Marcelo, Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, David Luiz,
Dani Alves, Felipe Luis.
Yeah,
a lot of depth there too.
Yeah, so I just think they're a very, very, very good squad.
I feel like they've always had issues at keeper. Those South American countries like Argentina's always seem to have issues at keeper. Brazil, but Ederson's kind of emerging with City, so we'll see how that plays out. Maybe he can be the rock at the back.
Yeah,
like
the thing is, there's time. We have another about 6 months until the World Cup really gets going here.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, but it's going to be freaking exciting.
Because they got to fit those fixtures in for the Premier League, so it's festive fixtures. They got to just going to be midweek, game week, weekend, game week. So they got to fit them in before the summer.
Funny thing, too, is Jurgen Klinsmann, former USA coach, is looking to also participate in the World Cup by trying to get the Australian job.
Finesse.
Which is a great finesse. So good job by him. I think I'll actually probably end up there. I always thought Klinsmann was a good coach. I honestly disagreed with taking him away. He was the coach when USA made one of their best runs in the World Cup. And the fact that they were able to get out of a group that consisted of Germany and Portugal just shows you that, maybe he wasn't the greatest coach in the international scene, but for the U.S., a very good one. And I know he sort of took an unorthodox approach with bringing in a lot of German and international players that had some citizenship here, but in reality, I think that's a great approach. I mean, that's what I would do if I was coach of the U.S., as well as trying to develop our farm system here. But so Australia in Group C with France, Peru, Denmark, and it'll be interesting to see if he's able to take over the reins there. And it'd be even funnier if Australia is able to make somewhat of a run as well, because it could just show you that, well, that could have been the U.S. in a lot of ways. But
can you name one Australian player?
No, not at all.
Aaron Moy, Huddersfield Town. Learn that name.
Yeah, Aaron Moy, got it. Thank you so much. Any other soccer news you want to report on? Just to sort of transition, actually. A lot of ejections and red cards being thrown around throughout the sporting world in the past week.
Oh, it's testy out here.
Yeah.
Trump's got people on edge.
Yeah.
It's the new...
Pogba with a very questionable red card.
I don't know what he was doing there, to be honest.
Yeah, Sergio Ramos with a red card that probably deserved it.
He's seeking. He's like LeBron. He plays so many minutes. Get me out of here. I don't want to play Getafe.
Speaking of LeBron got ejected for the first time in his career. Anthony Davis got ejected. I just saw that Sean Livingston got ejected. I mean, a lot of players are just
That's
getting
the most
rowdy.
Surprising one to me.
Yeah.
Sean Livingston's so nice.
Yeah, it's nice with the mid-range too. But yeah, a lot of freaking emotion going around, and I don't know what it is in the world of sports. Maybe refs are getting a little soft. The one I disagreed with the most was probably LeBron's. I mean, I know he probably sent some very foul 4-letter words, to the ref, but
he's like, see me in Space Jam.
yeah, that's probably what he said. Even though there's no 4-letter word in that sentence, but yeah, I just think that was a little too quick of a whistle, and he literally, as soon as he saw LeBron go toward him, he pointed the other way and said, "Go to the locker room." It was like a dad just telling his son go to his room and sit in the corner and think about what he did.
He was probably like, Tyronn Lue's overworking me. Give me the night off, ref. He's like, got you.
Got you. Get out of here.
Beep beep.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that was a good whistle sound, by the way.
No problem. But Sean Livingston, every time he scores a basket, I feel so bad for the other team. Cause I'm like, I'll live with the Klay Thompson, the KD, the Steph buckets, Draymond. But it's like when Livingston scores that little high post, mid-range, I'm just like, yo, there needs to be a rule. Adam Silver, Golden State plays 4-on-5 until the playoffs.
You think if Golden State could only play 4 of their players at a time throughout the regular season, they would make the playoffs?
Yeah, they would. They could mop the Sixers. Draymond would just guard 3 people.
I disagree. They would not make the playoffs. The NBA is too good of a league for that. I'd like to think. Let's transition to the NBA.
Oh, we weren't talking about it?
Well, let's just officially transition to the NBA. The same way we're officially going to talk about how David Fizdale is gone. Obviously, I always thought to be one of the better coaches in the NBA. I would say top 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And I just think Memphis every year, a very good squad. I know he's only been coached for a few years, but he's been on the staff for a while. And
I don't think so. I think it's his second year. Well, it's his second year. He was on the staff with Eric Spoelstra for a long time.
Yeah, and a lot of Miami players gave him a lot of love when he got fired and were surprised by the news. And I know I heard Dwayne Wade in a podcast talk about how he was texting Fizdale afterward and trying to figure out what the heck happened. And supposedly it was just, I guess, a separation of ideas and where the future was heading for both the team and him. But I mean, geez, I think any team that gets him is going to get a pretty good coach and a fiery one and one that defends his players and is able to figure out ways to win games. So I was very surprised by the Fizdale firing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think D-Wade and LeBron, they were very adamant on they wanted answers. I wonder if they got those answers. But I heard about Marc Gasol was saying, I don't know if it was him specifically, he actually said he didn't call for the firing. I think they're bumping heads because he was like, Fizdale, learn Spanish. Can't talk to you. And then I think somebody was saying he was a phony and all this. And I was like, okay, maybe he was just like a fiery guy. He was talking about data the whole time. And then when like Steve Kerr was saying he was one of the best coaches, I was like, okay, he's actually a good coach. But Memphis is weird with their coaches. I don't think they should have fired Jaeger. And then like immediately he got a job with Sacramento. So I don't know.
I still don't get how Mark Jackson doesn't have a job in the NBA.
I think there was something very murky going on behind the scenes with the Golden State job. With that, when he was saying it's very bittersweet, all this, I think he was hard to work with or something because Golden State probably got that word out there. But Memphis, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, what's going on? Tennessee having an issue with their coaches. I gotta get that straightened out.
Yeah. So I guess Testy Waters in Tennessee right now.
Yeah. Country music. It'll ease them down.
Did you see that Derrick Rose wants to come back? I think it's kind of interesting. And obviously he sort of took somewhat of a leave of absence and just wanted to think about life real quick.
I think he just wants to come on a back. That's all he wants to do.
What?
What? Yeah, I'm definitely going to take that out. With that, we're going to move on. Have you seen the young kid Marvin Bagley at all? I've been super impressed with him. He's in the beginning tournament of the of the season, he averaged like 30 and 15. Like, the dude's a monster, in my opinion. I've watched, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 games of his and been super impressed with him. I think I might have said on the pod, I actually enjoyed watching Wendell Carter. But Marvin Bagley, I mean, that guy's a freaking animal. I really hope somehow the Magic can mess around and lose every game for the rest of the season and get him.
Stop with that nonsense, Kevin. With this losing, Frank Vogel, veteran coach. Our players are getting older. Aaron Gordon, contract year.
Aaron Gordon's 22 years old.
I said contract year. He's been in the league for like 4 years. But with the Bagley, I have a take that I just thought of. Bagley balling out. Bagley balling out proves to me that we need to get rid of this one and done rule. Because he's supposed to be a senior in high school right now. And he's mopping the floor with these college players.
He is.
What do you think about that?
It's freaking impressive. You think that we should get rid of one and done rule as far as like they should stay longer in college, or they should be able to go over straight out of high school?
Go out of high school. You change the D League to the G League. You're obviously trying to make that league better. Every team needs an affiliate. And then they can go there, make little 60 grand, whatever. Or if they choose college, 2 years.
Well, this is a huge debate that has a lot of layers to it, and the fact that I think college athletes should be paid and yada, yada, yada. But my, I guess, quick fix would be that there should probably be a 2-year rule, and if you go to college, you got to stay for at least 2 years, and if you don't, then you can go straight out of high school. That would probably be my pick. Baseball does something a little similar.
Yeah.
So that's probably how I would do it. I know Doc Rivers agrees with me. I remember hearing him say that years ago in an interview when his son was actually selecting to go to Duke. But yeah, I would be pretty surprised if Marvin Bagley was not good in the NBA, because I've already seen a lot of things that will translate, and I think he's just got a bunch of room to grow as well. And I think he's just one of those people that I've always said on this pod that I'm a big character guy, and I just think he's got really good character and great leadership ability. So I'd be surprised.
I haven't inspected his character, but from the little that I've seen of him, I think he's looking like a better Justice Winslow, if that makes sense. Taller, just better Justice Winslow. That's my comparison.
Justice Winslow isn't bad in the NBA, but I think Marvin Bagley is much better than Justice Winslow.
Raise it up, much better.
I mean, you could probably say that Marvin Bagley is a better version of Matthew Trapani if you want to go there.
It's pretty simple of a comparison.
Yeah, just both rock solid guys and rock solid basketball players.
Yeah, we both have great character.
And curves. Moving on.
What?
So we've talked a little bit about the Detroit Pistons on the pod. I kind of was trying to tell everybody, just like the Magic, that they aren't for real. Within like a week and a half, the Magic went from being the 3 seed in the East to being like the 11th in the East. So I told you when it came to them, but the Pistons still relevant. Top 4 seed in the East still, playing pretty well. They've definitely dropped a few games over the past week or two, but them and Andre Drummond, I mean, they kind of look for real. Do you buy into what Detroit is putting in? So what do you think?
Yeah, I was skeptical at first, but I've always been a fan of Stan Van Gundy. I think he got the wrong end of the stick with Dwight Howard. I feel like he should still be at the Magic. He's doing a great job. Tobias Harris, Drummond, I don't know what he did in the offseason. He was eating the free throw cereal. He's apparently
Wheaties or something.
Eating at the line. And currently, if the season ended today, this would be a very intriguing matchup. Pistons Sixers and B Drummond. I know they were going after it.
Yeah, they definitely had some beef. I know that Joel Embiid was saying that Andre Drummond would not be able to guard him. Andre Drummond was talking about, I wouldn't really talk to me until you're able to play a full season yet. They matched up. I think Joel definitely won the battle, won the game as well. But Andre Drummond, Andre Drummond won as far as he's number 1 right now in rebounds in the NBA, kind of by a landslide. I think he's averaging like 15 boards. Pretty insane. But I don't know. I still don't buy into this Pistons team. I do think they'll be in the playoffs, but I still think it's only going to be like a 6 seed. I just don't see, we're only a quarter of the way into the season. I don't see them really lasting as far as being a top contender, because right now they're sort of somewhat of a contender, and some people are trying to say that they are a contender. I don't think so at all. I don't see them beating Boston in a series or Cleveland in a series. I don't even really see them being on Milwaukee in the series, or maybe Washington is so inconsistent, but I don't even see them being better than them. Or Toronto. Toronto's played pretty quality basketball as well, and no one's really been talking about. So I don't know. I think the Pistons are good, which is something that I wouldn't have predicted at the beginning of the season. I don't even think I had them in my playoffs. But I would be surprised if they're better than a 6 or a 5 seed.
Yeah, I see the Bucks sitting here at 6 seed, and I think they'll work it out. But if they don't really start pushing the ledger in the Eastern Conference, I think there should be some questions asked of Jason Kidd, because I think he's got a top 3 talented Eastern Conference team, in my opinion. And I really want to see how they do. The Raptors, I know you're a big fan. I think they're more of a regular season team.
Me too.
And the Cavs, W11 all of a sudden. I think LeBron. I mixed up. LeBron was getting a little mad at that Russell Westbrook chatter. He's like, oh, y'all think he's the MVP? Watch this season. That's what I think this is going on with LeBron.
Yeah, I think LeBron is the favorite to win the MVP as of right now. Him or Harden.
Yeah,
Harden. A really good case.
Second.
Yeah, a very close second. I could even make the argument for first, especially with Chris Paul being out. But I think LeBron will have more on his shoulders throughout the season, so he would be my favorite to win as of this point in the NBA. But I'd like to see how Kawhi does. I mean, the Spurs are still in a good spot.
He's out of that race.
I don't know, because you say that now, but recency effect is a real big thing. And if he is able to ball for the rest of the season, I think a lot of people are going to forget the beginning part of the season, especially if the Spurs are a top 3 seed in the West. I still think I like my preseason pick of Kawhi being MVP, and it's not just me sticking to my guns, because recency effect is a real thing. And I think that a lot of voters just vote on not only the last couple of games, but the last half of the season. And if Kawhi is putting the Spurs in a certain position during that time, I think Kawhi could definitely still win, so I wouldn't count them out. But, I mean, that's just me.
With this little talking this proved to me what you didn't mention, Stephen Curry. This man is all of a sudden becoming a little underrated. With KD, I would know. That's why I took that L last week, because he's been dealing with his little ankle issue. And he's on my fantasy team, so I took an L there. But he's quietly just carrying the Warriors there. He's got the highest plus minus on the team. Even if he's like 5 for 15. Oh, he was plus 30. That's Steph. He gets him going because he draws so much attention.
Yeah, I think Steph's amazing. I think he does a lot of things, even though he fills up the stat sheet. I think he does a lot of things that doesn't necessarily get on the stat sheet. I just think the way he moves the ball, kind of like Lonzo in a sense. I know it's probably a weird comparison, but I just think there's a lot of things that don't show up in the stat sheet that they both do similarly, in the way they move the ball, the control of pace, to be able to hit the right guys when they're hot, feed the hot hand. Those are things that a second, third, fourth level basketball player is able to kind of like look at and not just try to score points and play good defense. There's a lot more to it, and I think that Steph has been amazing at that so far. I actually want to talk to you about my personal 15 best players in the league.
Before that.
Okay,
I have
go
one
ahead.
team that I'm seeing. I'm sorry. It's pretty easy, but I went to the Magic Jazz game, and the Jazz game. Horrible game actually, but the Jazz absolutely mopped the floor with the Magic without Rudy Gobert, and that proves to me Quinn Snyder is one of the best coaches in the league.
Oh,
he doesn't have Gobert
because they beat the Magic.
No, they're They're above the Pelicans. 5-game win streak. Thunder are 9th. How can you keep doing the
Because the Thunder are 9th? Just because the Thunder are the most inconsistent team in the NBA, which I told people prior?
What? The Jazz. Just give them credit. Winning streak.
I think Jazz are good. I think Quentin Snyder's good. I'm not going to put him at this super high pedestal. He might sneak in my, I don't know, 5th spot at best.
That's high.
That's pretty high at best. I'm trying to think. Definitely Pop, Kerr, Stevens, and Spoelstra are ahead of him.
Kerr's a great guy, but that man got handed talent.
He did get handed talent, but he's a freaking good coach. You know, want me to prove it to you?
3-1?
2 championships? This is how I prove it to you. If Pop and Kerr switched, do you think the Warriors would be better?
Yeah, they wouldn't lose a game.
Oh my God, get out of here.
No,
Can you tweet that, please? If Pop was the coach of the Warriors would go 82-0 every season. Hashtag facts.
I think there's only so much a coach can max out a team. I think they'd just be about the same, in all honesty. No, he's a great coach.
I think he's a great coach, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that I like him as a person. I just think to be able to... Coach has to do 2 things, call plays and balance personalities, and I think he's the best at one of those, which is balancing personalities. I think the best person at calling plays is Brad Stevens, and I think the best mixture is Pop. But right now, my favorite overall coach right now is Brad Stevens.
Yeah,
I
he's
just think
solid.
He's really good, and I think he's coming up with plays that other coaches can't even fathom. As far as just like out of timeouts, I'm gonna chalk up a bucket for the Celtics every time. But I mean, that's just me. So going back before you really interrupted me, I want to introduce this final segment of who I think the 15 best players in the world and in the NBA are right now. This is basically looking at, who's performing this season and just my personal picks. The way we'll probably do it is I'll just start at 1 and kind of keep going down. Maybe I'll let you guess every now and then, but
please.
I want you to just give your take on whether you agree or not. Maybe some players you're considering or think this should be way lower. But here's my personal... I pick anybody as far as for my team, and I'm trying to win a championship this season. I think even I have a rookie on this list, and I think he deserves it. So I think the order is tough. I'm number 1, pretty obvious. Still think it's LeBron James. Wrote an article.
They're going to say Michael Beasley.
For me?
I wrote an article in the LRB column talking about who do I think LeBron James might pass the best player baton to. And the next 2 players actually are 2 of the players I mentioned. As I also mentioned another one, as well as Marvin Bagley. But I think he's still the best. He's tier 1. He... Never count him out. That's why I still give him a chance to win the championship this season, although I think the Warriors got that locked up.
Can I tell you who he's going to hand the baton to?
Yeah, who's your pick on who he hands the baton to?
His son.
Who's his son?
His son, Bronny Jr.
Bronny Jr.
Yeah.
His actual son.
Yeah.
Not all the cats in the NBA that he sons them. You literally mean his biological son.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with that. I do think there will be a time that LeBron James plays with Bronny Jr.
Little Griffey action.
Yeah,
Griffey
which in
Jr.
the NBA that's sick. But yeah, my number 2. Do you have a guess?
Can I guess every one, please?
It's gonna start getting more difficult as we go, but yeah.
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant is my number 2. I still think he's the second best player in the league. I also think there are people out there that think he's the first, and I don't think it's a horrible argument because he's the best player on the best team. and last year convincingly not beat LeBron James as far as their head-to-head matchup, because LeBron averaged a freaking triple-double. But, I mean, took the crown, went toe-to-toe with LeBron. The team did the rest. Obviously, the iconic shot in Game 5 to seal the deal, a three-pointer.
Iconic.
Yeah, looking like me out there during intramurals.
What?
But, yeah, I think Kevin Durant is the second-best player in the world still, and I do think there's people knocking at his doorstep, but for right now, and probably for the next 2 years, I would say he's going to be at that ranking.
Oh yeah, this is music to my ears because.
Oh yeah.
Because.
Oh yeah.
My fantasy
You sounded
team
like a Greek guy that you just like you went into Greece and you said, "Hey, do you guys have taxis here?" Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I have two of the top 5 NBA players on my fantasy team. Kevin Durant and James Harden.
Well, let's keep going with this list then.
And the reason I keep saying it that way is I don't know if you ever heard the song "Good Drink" with 2 Chainz and Gucci Mane. He had one of the.
Shut up.
He had a great verse where he like said it like that, and then he was like going to Oakland. Just listen to it. It's a pretty popular song.
All right, there's your music selection from LRB. The third best player, in my opinion, would you like to guess?
Kyrie Irving.
Incorrect. It's actually going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo.
He's a puppy.
No, I think he's a dog, and I think he's got another step to go. I think he's got the potential to pass LeBron in the next calendar year.
You know what I was disappointed in with him?
What?
I thought they were really going to win that series last year against the Raptors. That was an intriguing little series, by the way. People forget.
I didn't.
I wanted to see LeBron and Giannis in the playoffs because LeBron was just spinning the ball in front of Ibaka's nose, like smelled this Spalding and just shot it in his face. It's like, really? Come on, Ibaka.
Who, me?
So yeah, Giannis, my third best player, positionless, most athletic guy in the NBA, in my opinion, right with Russell Westbrook. At a 6'11" frame to do what he does. If he ever develops a jump shot, I think the league is over. You might as well give him a championship every season. I think he's that good. Love his attitude and character. I think he's hungry to be better, and he's like, 24, 25 years old. I just think the guy's got a super bright future and is going to dominate this league for the next probably 10 years. So yeah, those are my top 3 thus far. My number 4, it's kind of difficult. Are we adding players that are injured?
Of course.
Okay. So it kind of gives away mine. Probably
22, by the way. He's probably younger than you.
Oh yeah, 22. No, he's not younger than me, but he's close. So that makes me feel good about myself. But my number 4 is still Kawhi Leonard. And the reason is because if you keep going down the list, I think that it starts to become tier 2. And I
Greg
still think
Popovich still has him third without Kawhi. That's impressive.
No, Greg Popovich is a great coach, but I think Kawhi is just a great player. He's the best defensive player in the league. But I don't even think there's a question about that. He's a much improved offensive player. I would probably say top 15. And because of that mixture, I think you automatically have to put him in tier 1. So for me, he's number 4. If you disagree, tweet at me. But that's my opinion. I think Kawhi Leonard is the 4th best player in the world still. Who do you think my number 5 is? This one, let me preface it with this. I've always had a weird feeling about this player. I've always liked watching him play, but I've never really put him at this pedestal. This is probably the highest he's ever ranked in my personal list, but I started comparing him to the people below him, and I can make real arguments why he should be number 5, and I'm going to make them after you make this guess.
Kyrie Irving.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I think that my number 5 is Russell Westbrook.
Oh my gosh.
And here's why. I think that at this point, you deal with a lot of elite point guards. And the reason why I think I put him number 1 right now is he is the most athletic, which doesn't mean, that's not the only reason. But as far as when the rest of these guys want to play defense, Westbrook by far can do a much better job defensively.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Than everyone
I'm
else.
not convinced he's a good defensive player.
I agree with you. I think it's definitely an attitude thing, which is why I think like Kawhi just naturally always like a robot wants to play defense. He's just been programmed that way. I don't think Westbrook is been programmed that way, but if they need to stop, Westbrook probably be the last guy I want guarding me because there's just no cut, no move that would allow me to ever get past that athletic phenomenon. But I think Russell Westbrook is my 5th. I mean, he's really improved his shot over the past 2 years, which was always my biggest critique. I think he's a good passer, not a great passer. But
has he improved the shot?
He has. I mean, he's a volume shooter. Not necessarily, I mean, this season as well, but he has. He definitely has. He used to break them up 2 years ago when him and KD were together. Mm-hmm. I always thought that was the weakest part of his game, is that he should be shooting half the shots. But now I think he's put himself in contention to be able to shoot the amount that he does. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I mean, I've always been a pretty big critic of him, but I think he's my 5th best player right now. And that's just because of what he's able to bring to the table on both sides of the floor. Who do you think my number 6 is?
Kyrie Irving.
No, he's coming shortly. But it's actually your boy James Harden. I think he's having an MVP season right now. He's been snubbed the past 2 years. He is leading the Houston Rockets. They've been probably the best team so far in the NBA this season, and they just got back Chris Paul. And of course, and I think that's going to be a huge boost because I think Chris Paul is not too bad. But James Harden, I think a great passer, probably the person amongst this list the most that if I just need 2 points, I'm just going to give it to, or if I just need points, whether it's 2 or 3, I'm going to give it to him. I would say him and KD are number 1 in that category as far as just if you need a bucket. Those are the most guaranteed bets. But James Harden's just been a freaking monster. I think his leadership skills are improving. And I think he's kind of like carrying the best team in the NBA right now.
Yes, he's good. I like him. He's on my fantasy squad. But one beef that I was not expecting that I found out this year, Kevin McHale and James Harden.
Oh my gosh.
Beef. Little shots, just not even subliminal, just Kevin McHale TNT, Harden in an interview, just, I never learned anything from him. He's not a good coach, all this. And then McHale shots back. He said, people don't really respect people that don't play defense. And I was like, ooh. And I was very disappointed in his performance in that last Spurs game. I mean, it's funny to talk about with the strip club he went to and all this. It's just, he's the type of player that I don't think he's the most dedicated in the league, and we might not see him forever. So enjoy it while it lasts. And if you haven't listened to the Wade podcast, go listen to it, because one of his best picks on that perfect basketball player that surprised me was Harden dribbling. And I've started like looking, and I think he heard him, because every time I'm just like, wow, his dribbling is more crisp. And he does that step back. It's even more vicious.
That was, in my opinion, the best steal of that little draft I did with Wade. I mean, I didn't realize that he had handle left and that James Harden was still on the board.
Yeah.
I just think, I think his handle is probably 3rd or 4th in the league behind Steph and Kyrie. But yeah, James Harden, my 6th best player. I'm going to try to go a little quicker here. My next one is the guy you've been guessing the past couple of rounds, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie, number 1 in handles, no doubt about that. Leading a team very well and doing it in a way that is not just stat stuffing like people kind of thought he would be doing. I mean, he's only averaging about 20 points a game. And I think I just think he's doing amazing as far as leading the team and providing necessary buckets when need be, feeling out the pace of the game. I think he's amazing. And defensively, he's also improving as well. I mean, he's always had quick hands, but now he's kind of adding that with his feet. So I think Boston and him are doing very well. My next pick, any guesses?
Let's see. Stephen Curry.
That's correct. Steph Curry, my 8th best player in the league right now. You kind of saying before, he's kind of become underrated, but at the same time, there's so many good players. But yeah, still an animal, best shooter in the league as far as off the dribble and total package, although I picked Klay Thompson first and my Wade's and I podcast just because I love his form and kind of like how he gets it off. And but Steph is just obviously amazing. His handle is amazing. His pace for the game is probably my favorite in the NBA as far as just the way he conducts that. I absolutely love Steph. I think he's having a great season thus far, especially with KD being in and out. For me, eighth best.
Oh, 8th best? Yeah, I think he's third in MVP this year. In my opinion.
That's a pretty hot take.
He doesn't always get the respect because he doesn't really guard your other point guard. You'll put him on Amon Shumpert, J.R. Smith.
That's why I put Westbrook ahead and Kyrie a little bit too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I think Kyrie's the greatest scorer of all time.
What?
He has the best signature shoes out right now. And yeah.
Can you guess my 9th?
Your 9th is
It starts to get pretty tricky at this point.
Chris Paul.
No.
Yeah, it's getting a little tricky here. You got.
I'll give you one more guess.
You got Paul George.
No. My number 9 is Anthony Davis. I think he's just been plagued on a bad team. And I think right now he's on a decent team with the service of DeMarcus Cousins, who's had another has had a very monster season. But he just really does it all. He's an elite shot blocker, an elite rebounder, an elite scorer. He's kind of like at the outside range now. For me, he's number 9. And I still think that guy has a lot of time in the NBA to be able to do things. I think he's like 25 years old. But I think a lot of people forgot. I think he may be the most underrated superstar in the NBA. But I still think he's a superstar.
Yeah, I like him. I think you're a little bit too highly on him. I was always keeping him in my mind. Like, just, future, tell me about Anthony Davis. And I was like, when is it going to come? And now Towns comes along, and I'm kind of liking Towns more than Davis.
As far as future goes, I agree with you. I like the prospect of what Towns is able to bring, but
I'm not talking future.
You're talking right now? No, I disagree. And I love Towns. I have him on my fantasy team. I think he's amazing. He's my top 5 favorite players to watch. But Towns honestly has the team to dominate this season. They should be, if on paper, a top 4 team in the West, and they're not. And I think that a lot of that falls on his shoulders.
The one thing with the Timberwolves that I don't think it's talked about enough is Thibodeau. He's known as this great defensive coach at Boston. When's he going to teach them young pups to play some defense?
I don't know. Jimmy Butler was quoted saying that they haven't guarded anybody all year, which is kind of interesting considering they've played 20-plus games. But
then they bring in Jamal Crawford, who's not known as a defensive player. Wiggins, all of a sudden, he has athleticism too, but it's not a good defensive player, really.
And I have no idea why not, because he should be the best defensive player in the NBA, but whatever.
I think he saves himself for his offensive game.
Yeah. Can you guess my number 10? It's another big.
Oh, big? DeMarcus Cousins?
That's correct. Anthony Davis' teammate, DeMarcus Cousins, you could argue is having a better season than Anthony Davis. I've always been a big DeMarcus Cousins fan as far as basketball-wise. I think he's super good talent. I think once he added that three-point shot, I think he's amazing, and he's a lot beefier, so he's able to kind of like cook a lot of bigger guys in the post, and I just think he's a really good player, and having a tremendous season. There was a point in the season where I think he was top 5, but as of right now, I think he's number 10. And as talented as the league is, I think that guy, he goes to a Washington, goes to a Cleveland, if he goes to LA, that guy's going to end up changing a team. I think whatever team he ends up on becomes one of the top 4 or 5 contenders in the league, depending on where he ends up. And I think that could be by the trade deadline.
The Wizards, the management is a bit weird. They don't really have many pieces to give for Cousins, but that's definitely the number one team I would want him to go to. Hopefully that John Wall knee issue isn't too serious. I know he's always had a little bit of issues with his knee. It was looking good last year. Surfaced up again, unfortunately. We get to see a little bit of one of my favorite players, Beal, get more ball handling duties though. Talk about best jump shots. I think he is top 3 best form.
DeMarcus Cousins?
Bradley Beal, my bad. I transitioned a little bit awkwardly, but Cousins, I'm a little bit skeptical on him. I think his character's questioned. Why was it so hard? Why were the Kings never good? I know they didn't have a good roster necessarily. Why didn't they get anything for him, really? They didn't get a whole lot.
Well, they actually ended up becoming decent. I mean, they got Fox and another draft pick, and I think had maybe like the 3rd best draft this past season. But I just think DeMarcus Cousins is still you put him on the right team. The guy's a champion, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I would like to see him on the Wizards, but anywhere else, I think he's a bit of a cancer, in my opinion.
Okay. My number 11, guy that I'm super pumped about just to watch every time he plays, one of my top 5 favorite players right now, and the guy I think that I mentioned before, LeBron will be passing the baton to in a couple years.
Oh, really?
Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons right now is almost a top 10, maybe a top 10 player in the NBA. He's been absolutely impressive. It's his rookie season. He's had the best rookie season since LeBron. He is scorching teams. He's leading Philadelphia to wins without the number 1 pick, Markelle Fultz, who I think has just been in the shadows recently, and it's been a tragedy because I have an unpopular opinion, but I kind of think if they had Lonzo Ball, they'd be better. If they had Jason Tatum, if they had De'Aaron Fox, if they had Donovan Mitchell. I mean, he just scored 41 points the other night. I just think Ben Simmons has been an absolute monster and leading a decent Philadelphia team to a lot more wins because of how good he is overall. And the thing is, he doesn't settle, right? I know he doesn't have a jump shot right now, and I hope that's something he's able to develop, and he probably needs to switch hands. But yeah, I just think that Ben Simmons he's an animal, and I think somebody that is going to win championships in this NBA.
Were you watching the game where they did a little bit of the hack of Simmons?
Yes.
I think that's a bit of an issue there with the shot, of course.
But it's a compliment.
Were you saying if they had Lonzo on the Sixers, they'd be better?
Yes.
How would that work, though?
I know that Lonzo necessarily is not a good shooter. Obviously, he's been given a lot of flack for that. But I always think a team that's passes well, like if I can have another passer on my team, then bring him on. I mean, I just think that the easier you can make basketball, the better. And I think that Lonzo's very easy to play with.
I just really want to see that Hezzy Jimbo. I've been fiending for it.
I mean, I do think Markelle will end up having a good role in the squad. I just hope that he's able to come back and have a head on his shoulders because he's had arguably the worst start to the season that he could imagine. But he's supposed to be coming back within the next couple of weeks. Can you guess my next player? This is number 12 at this point.
Your next player is DeMar DeRozan.
No, good guess. Mine is Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn.
Already.
Yeah, I think he's been an absolute animal. I'm really pissed I didn't draft him in our fantasy league because I just think that he's putting New York on the map. He's making them interesting. I think they have a good shot at being a playoff team this season. I think that he's one of 5 players in the NBA that no matter what, there's just no one in the NBA that can really guard him. And I think he's just a huge matchup problem, and I hope he's good enough to LeBron to maybe even lure him over that direction when free agency comes around, because I think he's that big of a talent. And I love the fact that him, Ben Simmons, obviously from Australia, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I mean, a bunch of these foreign guys are actually really making imprints on this league.
Oh yeah, I love the international influence. It's really improving the product that I watch in and night out. And there's an attribute that Kristaps Porzingis has that's very underrated. He has the most flexible ankle in the game. You seen his nasty ankle injury? I don't know what ligament juice he's taken, but I don't know how that wasn't more. I don't know how that was not more of a serious injury. I guess it's good to be young, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think he's good. I'm gonna round out the last 3 real quick, just rapid fire for you, and then you can kind of like give your last take on that. But my rounded out last 3 are Joel Embiid, who I think is an absolute monster. If he stays healthy, he's got potential to be top 5. But we'll see how that goes. But he's just been an absolute monster, just talking the talk and walking the walk this season. If we're including injured players, Chris Paul, I think, is about where I'd like to have him in this range. Still a very quality player, a guy that I think is able to always make your team better. I'm big on passing and character, and I think he's got great both. I think him now being on Houston's squad and being able to hate James Harden is only going to make things easier. They're probably going to lose a couple of games just trying to get used to it again, considering they really didn't have the chance prior to Chris Paul's injury. But I think by the end of the season, they're going to be a top dog. And then I'll round out my list with Nikola Jokic, another foreigner. And I think that guy's a monster. I hope that his injury isn't too bad, because he's out right now. But I definitely think that guy is also extremely versatile, the best passing big man in the league, and making a Denver squad very, very interesting.
Wow, you are going off kilter here, man. I was not expecting this. Is Embiid ever going to do what every other NBA player has to do and play a back-to-back set? That's all I have to say for Embiid. Who's your next player? Paul? Paul's not injured, by the way. He's been playing. They'll be fine. He's a great player.
Well, he's been injured this season.
Yeah. A former player that I've really been surprised at his candidness is Glenn Davis. He said Rajon Rondo is a better point guard for him because he would pass to a spot where it's good for you, where Paul would just kind of like throw the ball at you at a spot he expects you to be at. With Jokic,
just shows me that Glenn Davis is not that advanced of a basketball player.
I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting take. And his character's a bit. He was like in New Orleans. He said, "Oh, we all hung out." Like it wasn't really forced. And then in Los Angeles, like, "Oh, we don't hang out. It's kind of has to be forced." That's a bit weird to me. And Jokic, his ankle didn't hold up so nice. But the best big man in the NBA is Draymond Green, not Jokic, but he's second. That's it.
Well, they also have like a 3-inch difference, but I think Jokic just rivals Draymond, and Draymond's a 6'9" center, so
he gets that offense going, Draymond. But yeah, Jokic, second best outlet passes in the NBA behind Kevin Love. I know everyone sleeps on those outlet passes.
Yeah, I could have even included Draymond toward the end here. I think honorable mentions would be him, Towns, DeMar DeRozan, Damian Lillard, just to name a few. But obviously it's been a great season. But the big things that I was surprised about, Russell Westbrook ranking as high as he was on my list. Kawhi, I still think he's going to be an animal this season. Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins making my top 10. And the younger guys in Porzingis, Embiid, and Simmons really creeping into the top 10, which is kind of crazy. I can't remember the last time a rookie was that good.
With Chris Paul, if they don't make it to the Western Conference Finals, his legacy to me is going to be very tainted.
I'm with you. I think I don't really like to make excuses, and I love Chris Paul, but he's good enough to be able to make it to a conference finals, which he hasn't been able to do so thus far. So I think Houston is his best chance, and I think that they're going to end up being able to do so. So we'll see.
We will.
Thank you so much for being on the pod. If you haven't done so already, go check out our social media, Instagram and Twitter. We're nearing I think about 700 followers on each, which is pretty sweet. I post stuff every week on there, as well as on lockerroombeef.com on the LRB column. We try to write some shorter articles there for you to be able to consume on the latest stuff that's going on. Like I said, go check that out. You're probably listening to us through Apple Podcasts or SoundCloud. Know that both mediums are available, as well as YouTube if you prefer that. But anything else to say, Matt?
Just thank you for giving your time of day, fans.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in about a week, and see you, family.
See ya.